Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to review this book. I don't know if you like to read fiction about magic, but I do. And I love Harry Houdini, and I love reading anything I can get my hands on about Harry Houdini. And this book, look at the way this book is designed. I love the cover of this book. I mean, it just harkens back to that amazing period when Houdini was doing his thing, you know. So I picked this up based on the cover alone, but when I started reading it, I found out that it was incredible. So I'm here to recommend it to you. I almost never do a bad, if I review something on this vlog, it's good. And this is good. It's called Mrs. Houdini by Victoria Kelly. I'm going to read the ad copy. This is the little blurb that you get on the back. And I'm going to go ahead and read that to you so you get an idea for what this book is about. Hopefully it stimulates your appetite. Before escape artist Harry Houdini died, he vowed he would find a way to speak to his beloved wife, Bess, from beyond the grave, using a coded message known only to the two of them. But when a widowed Bess begins seeing this code, in seemingly impossible places, it becomes clear that Harry has an urgent message to convey. Unlocking the puzzle will set Bess on a course back through the pair's extraordinary romance, which swept the illusionist and his bride from the beaches of Coney Island to the palaces of Budapest to the backlots of Hollywood. When the mystery finally leads Bess to the doorstep of a mysterious young photographer, she realizes that her husband's magic may have been more than just an illusion. Absolutely stellar. I mean, I picked that up, and what you get here is a biography like any of the other biographies, but it's so intimate because you're actually looking at the story through Bess's eyes. And I know that it's fiction, and I know that there's a lot of shall we say liberalities or liberties that were taken in the book, but I just think it's amazing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I think this is an amazing book and what it did for me in a second, but I want to give you a couple of quotes and some information about the author. Victoria Kelly graduated from Harvard University, Trinity College, Dublin, and the Iowa Writers Workshop. She is an incredibly qualified author, and this is her debut novel. Publishers Weekly said this is a splendid debut novel, moving effortlessly beyond mere fictionalized biography. Kelly delivers a richly lyrical and thought-provoking novel with closing twists that feel as impossible, inevitable, and satisfying as magical. In short, as one of Houdini's own illusions. Victoria Kelly brings immense imaginative empathy to bear on a fascinating story of a woman who stood beside Harry Houdini on stage, in life, and after his death. Resonant, haunting, and deeply felt, this is a stellar debut novel from a novelist to watch. That is from Geraldine Brooks, Pulitzer Prize winning author herself. So, that's all the hype, that's all the story, and so on and so on. Why did I like it so much that I feel like I need to sit here and do a video about it? I read biographies, as you probably know. I have come on here and I've promoted biographies. I mean historical biographies that are historically authentic. I read tons of magic histories. What you don't get in the vast majority of them is that sense of intimacy. That sense of watching the story through one of those characters' eyes. And I found myself drawn to the book because that's exactly what I'm getting. I was looking at the story through the prism of Bess. Now, I realize it's fictionalized. I realize that the author is using her imagination and bringing that to bear. But I appreciated the intimacy I felt in getting engaged in a story that I'm very well familiar with, through the eyes of Bess. Now, one thing that really struck me, and that it was fairly early in the book that I encountered this, because they had this whirlwind romance. Houdini didn't know Bess very long before he proposed marriage. And they got married, and Houdini's mother and family were fairly supportive of Bess, but Bess's parents were not quite as supportive. That's all characterized in the story. But what really stood out to me in the early chapters of the book were the intimate moments between Bess and Houdini, and I found myself embarrassed by it. And I started asking myself a question: why? I mean, it's not salacious. It's not like you're reading romance fiction that's erotica or something like that. It's nothing like that. But it's an intimate portrayal. And the author is looking at how Bess might have felt and how those reactions might have been and how that relationship might have evolved. They were married after all. And I found myself a little bit uncomfortable by those scenes, and I started wondering, why am I feeling uncomfortable? And then I realized that for right or for wrong, I have in some ways elevated Houdini to a very high level of esteem. And then I started asking myself the question, well, if I've actually done that, if I've elevated Houdini to this high level of esteem, he's someone that I look up to, he's someone that I admire, why would it make me uncomfortable that he's married and has normal marital relation? Why would that make me uncomfortable? And I started to unpack that a little bit. And I think it comes back to my Christian background and the way I was raised as a believer, and Jesus. Now, I'm not comparing Houdini to Jesus Christ by any means, but I remember when the controversy came out about, well, could Jesus have been married to Mary Magdalene, and all those feelings that went on there. It was a weird sensation for me, and asking myself the questions of, why am I feeling this way? And I realized, all that aside, I realized that I have a higher regard for Houdini than I thought. In recent years, I've read a lot of material that is damaging to Houdini's reputation. I've read a lot of material that presents evidence that maybe he didn't do all the things he purportedly, allegedly did. And that's probably true of a lot of magicians. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what people believe we do rather than what we do that actually matters, and Houdini knew that very well. Those are just some personal reflections on the book, but if you're looking for an experience, if you're looking for something that's a little different in terms of looking at the life of Harry Houdini, I really highly recommend this to you. It is outstanding. As far as the spiritualist element, did Houdini actually speak to his wife? The author in her comments, in her notes, not in the book itself, but in her comments, she says she doesn't really believe that he did. But the story opens up that gateway a little bit and explores that phenomenon. I have different feelings about it. You know what my background is. You know what my experience is. You know what my predispositions are. I'm totally open to the possibility. I'm not closing that door because I'm not a skeptic. I don't go that way. I keep the possibilities open. That, by the way, the Houdini Code has been explored in a number of different books quite well. Some positive, some negative. Some saying that it couldn't have happened. Some saying that it might have. So depending on your philosophical disposition, you might go one way or the other. But all that aside, it is a great read. You will be drawn into the story. She's a wonderful storyteller. She knows how to create intimacy with her audience and with her subject. So I really cannot recommend this more highly. Mrs. Houdini by Victoria Kelly. Don't miss it. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please comment down below. You know I love your comments. You know I respond to them. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day.